Dominic, thank you so much for being with us. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
And to also to get to know you like over the last couple of weeks. We, of course, you did almost a masterclass, but now we spent some time together. It's super good to get to know you, your perspective about music, and of course your art, but also you as a person. Been great.
Thank you.
One question I was wondering is, what is one of the first good memories that you have of music?
You mean like electronic music or
in general?
In general.
You just mentioned to me that your father, for example, is also into music a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, like, did you have any memories with him when you were very young about your introduction to music, any type of music?
I mean, yeah, I definitely had a very early first experience with electronic music because when I was 6 or 7 years old, my dad and actually my whole family, we always went to one TV show, which was shown in TV program in Germany here called MDR.
You went as a guest.
Yeah, we went as a guest, and actually my dad, he was always interested in meeting like the acts that were playing there and performing there in person. So he always managed somehow to sneak us in backstage.
So cool.
And yeah, we were actually chilling with, I don't know, Daisy D, and sometimes we once or twice we even met Scooter and and all these kind of people. Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, I was way too young to really understand what was happening, but it was like, that was my first experience with electronic music. And since then, I mean, Scooter is a different, of course, a different type of techno than what I do and produce. But it definitely opened the gate towards where I am now. So it's that was one of the first, or actually the first experience I had with electronic music.
So you said you were 7 to 8 year old at that time when you were introduced to, let's say, the world of music through your family.
Yeah.
And after that, how long did it take for you to actually say, I want to actually do music myself?
So when I was, I think 12 or 13 years old, my dad showed me for the first time how to produce music because, as I told you before, he's 61 now, and since I can remember, he was producing music. So I still remember imagining him. I still picture him in our living room, sitting in front of the PC, producing beats and music. And yeah, when I was 12, 13 years old, he showed me how to start with like basic stuff in a DAW. Back then it was like Magic's Music Maker. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I think I've seen it, Just a quick word before we go back to the interview. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast. I'm Joseph.
And this is the HoS Sound Studio.
If you enjoy this content, please consider liking and commenting on this very episode, and also following us on the platform where you listen to or you watch the podcast, but also follow us on social media. And if you like this guest, consider checking their masterclass on our website. See in the description, there is a link that directly takes you there with also discount code. Once again, thanks so much for watching and listening to the podcast. We love what we do. I hope to see you soon on a dance floor.
Yeah, it caught my interest, definitely. When I was 14 years old, I think, my dad and also my mom, of course, gifted me a mixer and 2 turntables for my birthday.
Wow.
And they were saying, or at least my dad was probably pushing it more than my mom. And he was saying that, if you like producing, give this a try as well. And he also gifted me 30 records, 40 records that he bought on eBay at this time, because he was always buying those really big vinyl packages.
Was he playing at all? Was DJing?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't DJing. No. And then I started with 2 really shitty reloop turntables and a really shitty Behringer mixer to DJ. And there's actually like a paper in my youth room from 2003, where I took part in the first DJ contest ever when I was 16 years old. And yeah, I think I did. I came out as third, something like that.
That's pretty cool.
From, I don't remember exactly, but from 10 people or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What kind of music was that?
hard trance.
I also like I think at that time, like you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah. There was also like
some time ago.
one club called Sachsen Center, which was like a really big club, like a big disco kind of. It had like 4 different floors. One floor with R&B and black music.
Yeah.
One floor with trance. One floor with disco and funk, and one floor with like greatest hits, 80s, 90s, something like that. And yeah, also at this time when I was 16, 17 years old, my parents always drove me to the club with some of my friends.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we, I don't know, partied for 4, 5, 6 hours, and then in the
They would
middle
pick
of
you
the
up.
night at 3 a.m. in the
That's
morning,
amazing.
my mom came to pick me up in her pajama, and yeah,
That's amazing. That was in Chemnitz, or
yeah, close to Chemnitz, yeah.
wow, very cool.
Yeah.
So it seems like your parents were always very supportive.
Yeah,
and,
super supportive, yeah.
happy for you to be in the environment of music
Mhm,
and
mhm.
really like actually, you know,
Mhm.
they buying you were buying you equipment. They were taking you to the club. They were like kind of encouraging. this
Yeah,
passion.
yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that okay, for sure it had an influence on
Mhm.
your choices, but in terms of inspiration, was there something about your youth or how you were living, for example, with your family that inspired the way you approach music making?
I mean, the way that my dad introduced me to producing definitely influenced my way of producing a lot. For example, until, I don't know, March this year, I was producing with Cubase
Wow.
because my dad introduced me to Cubase when, I don't know, I was 18, 19 years old. And because I developed a really good workflow with it at this time, I kept working with it for like 15 years or something.
Yeah.
But then when I started to produce and do collabs with other producers here from in Berlin, I got introduced to Ableton, and since March, April this year, I switched to Ableton, and I'm actually asking myself why it took so long. Because Ableton for me offers so many more possibilities to work creatively
Yeah.
than Cubase. I have the feeling Cubase somehow didn't really took care of like electronic music producers so much.
Do you think it's also because of the split view session arrangement in
Yeah,
Ableton
yeah.
that makes a difference?
Yeah, but also the Max for Life is a really, really nice, powerful tool that Ableton offers, because you like there are always some nerds out there inventing some new plugins, and it's that's really useful.
Let's talk about maybe your creative process. For example, are you a person that sits in front of in your studio, in front of the laptop every day? You just keep like producing until something comes up, or you try to have like longer batches of hours where you sit in the studio, or for example, only when you're inspired, you sit in front of the laptop and you make music?
For me, in terms of the amount of time that I put into producing, a lot changed when I stopped my last job and decided for myself to go all in with the music, which I'm trying to do at the moment, trying to make a living out of it. So since then, I basically do music every day. Sometimes if I don't feel inspired, I don't want to really push it, because I have the feeling that it demotivates me kind of. If I sit in front of the PC or my laptop, I'm pushing to be creative while I'm not feeling creative at this moment. But like lately, Yeah, I'm producing almost every day, and when you produce every day, you also develop a kind of certain workflow,
Yeah.
and you definitely get faster in like putting together a basic beat or the basis of a track. My approach with every track is always different because I have the DAW, of course, but also I have some hardware like a virus synthesizer, the Arturia Microfreak, a TB3 from Roland, which is, in my opinion, underestimated. It's a very simple device, but
Drum
very.
machine.
Huh?
Is it a drum machine or a synth?
No, it's actually like a kind of clone. It's from Roland as well, from the 303, from the acid synthesizer.
Oh, for bass lines, like
Yeah,
sequencer.
But it has different sounds on it. It's not just bass lines. It also has some really, really nice bleepy sounds. And like everyone, when I do sometimes like these bleepy sounds in my tracks, everyone thinks that it comes from a modular, but it's it's just this tiny, thing. I have an Octatrack as well at home that I use just for sequencing my synthesizers.
Yeah.
But I think the sequencer of the Octatrack is really nice. But now that I switched to Ableton, I actually focus more on working in Ableton because I want to, dig deep into the possibilities that the DAW offers.
In the DAW, yeah. And so it seems like, now it's your job is to make music. So every day is like part of your work is to actually sit down in front of the computer.
Yeah.
When you get stuck, let's say you mentioned before, when you feel uninspired, you don't try to push it so much. How do you support yourself to actually regain inspiration?
I think I'm telling myself it's okay to wait for some time, like at some point, at least from my experience over the last years, at some point there will be like a moment where you kind of feel that it's time to get back to producing.
Yeah.
And it always worked for me in the past. So I'm kind of trusting my guts, let's say. Yeah.
Got it, yeah. So you found a way to be kind to yourself and be like, okay, maybe, we'll go back to it at some point.
Yeah.
No need to push.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you try to avoid or try to have constantly in your life to support your creative craft? For example, some people meditate, some people go for walks, some people go in the nature, some people spend time with friends or go to clubs to get inspiration continuously.
I mean, going to clubs definitely always gives me some fresh inspiration for my own productions. I really love to be in the nature because it also helps to reset my mind and my creativity, kind of.
Yeah.
So I really love to go outside in the countries, out in the countryside with our camper van and our cat, just to reset and settle down to earth again. And then after like one weekend out in the nature, I feel really inspired and like free in my head again.
Got it. So it feels like it's a reset and an inspiration.
Yeah.
What goes on in your mind are you aware of, like, for example, you mentioned reset. So it seems like sometimes you might have a lot of thoughts and then you go there, you just like carte blanche.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to erase the music for a weekend from my mind, and it works well for me to be in the nature and not to think about anything that is back home.
Yeah. And then you go back home and you feel, okay, I have something new.
Yeah. Already on the, like last time we went out with the camper van, because now in winter it's not that easy because it's cold. But the last time, already on the way back in the camper van, I was like, yes, now I'm gonna be back at home and gonna make some new music. So I've really felt inspired and energetic about.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you go into the studio, you're making a track. Is there something or recurring feelings that you feel while you're making it? and that you try to express with your tracks?
So I think for me, really, when I do my tracks, they are sometimes very different from another. So for example, yesterday I did a very dubby, classy techno track, but sometimes I want to have like a very energetic, driving techno track that could also be like 145, 144 BPM. It really depends on my mood or how I feel in that moment. For example, if I went to a club the weekend before, it's more likely that the next track is gonna be a bit more of a banger than when I didn't go to clubs for 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. And you tend to approach, so when we go technically speaking, so do you have some elements that you try to start with? Kick, for example. I mean, you showed your approach in the HoS masterclass. You obviously start with the kick and the low end. You make that working before you add other things. But is that always how you work, or you change?
I mean, it depends on which direction I want to go. But if I want to produce club-focused, club-oriented tracks, I always start with the kicks and with the low end, and then adding some hi-hats and like, let's say, a main element, because I think my tracks are always built up like this, that I have like the basic groove, the hi-hats, and one lead element that goes through the whole track. And actually, on that lead element, I put so much time into it because it has to have like a certain character, a certain momentum that can go on for like 5 minutes 30 and doesn't get boring. And for example, when I open a new project, I created myself a template so that I don't have to put, I don't know, like different audio channels in the beginning and MIDI channels and do all the routing. So now I have everything. When I open a new project, I have everything already set up to my preferences, and I can immediately start working and just turn on the synthesizers, and then I can just jam around.
Yeah, so it seems like the most important things for you all, I mean, definitely low end and kick if you're creating a club track, and then you try to find an element that is kind of like the singer of the track, right? That expresses something. I have 2 questions on this. One is, how do you find a balance between the two? Because maybe sometimes you find an element that plays really well, maybe you do something like question response, like to create tension, but then doesn't stack up with the kick. Like, which one takes the most importance in your tracks? So do you change the kick because you found an element, or change the low end because you found an element that works, or the other way around?
That's a tricky question, because I never really take care of why I change certain stuff. But I always have the feeling that, for example, if I have like a synth line playing together with the low end and the hi-hats, for example, if the synth line doesn't fit the kick, I'm trying to play around with the kick, using another kick, or maybe adding another kick on top to, I don't know, highlight the kick a bit more, because I have the feeling it's not right there in the mix. But also with synth lines, it's as I showed in my HoS Sound masterclass, I'm working a lot with the Sting sequencer, and this gives me a lot of opportunities to get different sequences out of one element.
So you play with it until you find something that feels good in the entirety of the track. It's not just a single element.
Yeah.
Do you use the same approach when you work with outboard? So Sting sending, or another sequencer sending to a synthesizer, the drone, for example.
Yeah.
You play with it.
Yeah, exactly. I play around with the sequence, and at the same time I'm manipulating the synthesizers. And adding like an effect chain on Ableton.
And another thing, interesting thing that I saw in your masterclass actually was the arrangement. Like for you, like let's say you start with the session view, you show how you find the elements, you're happy, and then when you go into arrangement, you kind of like paste everything together, and then you start cutting. So you go by removal.
Yeah.
Can you tell more about the approach?
I think for me it's like the easiest approach to do it like this, because I mean I'm working in the session view, and then when I drag it to the arrangement view, I put everything, the whole track, all the elements on the whole track, and then over the last years I also kind of developed a type of arrangement that works well for my tracks and from my understanding. So then I know already where I want to put the ride, or where I want to have the clap and the hi-hats. And as I said, like my lead sounds mostly go from start to beginning. But I put some automation on it with LFOs, filters, delays, reverbs, whatever.
Got it. And in terms of arrangement, because I'm sure that your process has refined a lot over the years. Like when you think about a club track, so again, let's talk about realm of techno for clubs, for DJs to play it. What do you think is something that one should really think about when they're making a track for DJs to be played in a club?
Yeah, I think what many people underestimate when you think about club tracks is to have like a long enough intro and outro. But that's also maybe me coming from a perspective where I started playing with vinyl, because with vinyl you don't have the option to just loop it.
Yeah, that's true.
I always take care of a long enough intro and outro for a possible vinyl release and vinyl DJs playing the track. And also, I mean, there are so many good tracks out there, so many good producers out there, and everyone has his or her unique way to create a certain sound. For example, Mattis Lenne is like at the moment a big inspiration for me, because he has a very fresh, interesting sound.
Sound design or arrangement?
Sound design.
Like Quells as well. Like they have something very interesting that is kind of hard to grasp as well. The structure of the
definitely. It's hard to say that you should do this and that to create a proper club track, but I think a long enough intro and outro, at least from my perspective, is very important for DJs to make it as easy as possible for DJs to mix it.
Yeah. So thinking how that track will be used mostly, and then optimizing for that is it's useful. Yeah. And you worked with a lot of other artists. You have a lot of collaborations with Against Me. Then you have, I mean, we spoke about Gabriele from HoS as well. Yeah. What have you learned, for example, from working with Against Me that inspired you or changed your way of approaching your music?
I mean, I think Against Me is a really, really good producer. He's also producing for, I don't know, already 10 years or something. He was actually also the person that inspired me to switch to Ableton, because when I was working with him, I saw all the possibilities that Ableton offers that Cubase doesn't. Yeah, he has a really nice or interesting workflow when he's working with his modular and stuff, because he's putting a bass line on kick on Ableton, like a straight kick, normal 9/9, and then he's just pushing the record button of his of the input of the modular, and then he's just tweaking around, and at the end he has like a 15 minutes long take. Then he selects certain part from that take, and then he goes on with the processing, putting effects and stuff. Yeah. But that was like a different approach for me, but I really enjoyed this kind of working.
Because it was also different from you, so it inspired your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've been producing now for some years, and do you think you found, of course you're going to keep changing, right? But have you found your authentic voice? Like, do you feel that the music you're putting out now represents who you really are?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was able to create my distinctive sound over the last years. And for example, I never really watched master classes. I taught everything myself over the last 15 years that I'm producing now. And also the different genres that I produced. Before I started producing techno, actually the moment where I really got into techno was in 2014, I think, when I was at Nation of Gondwana, which is also my favorite festival.
Where you played for the first time this year, so 10
Yeah.
years later.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and back then I saw Rothead playing there, and it was like a eye-opening moment for me because it was at night. They also have a really amazing light show during the night, and I was, I don't know, first or second row, and he was playing 2 hours, and I was really dancing my ass off. And after that, I was like really hooked from the real techno. What was the question again?
Question was whether you feel you have found your true musical voice. So it feels like whatever you're putting out feels.
True. Yeah, before I produced techno, or I started to produce techno, I did deep house. I did quite some down tempo as well, so 90 BPM, 100 BPM, something like that. So all these different genres that I produced and tried to produce over the last years, I think it all helped to have my kind of own sound right now. All the influences that I got over the last years, it helped to create my distinctive sound.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because you probably learned something from each of them. You learn what you like, what you don't like.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then now it becomes you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, for example, for people who are trying to develop their own style, their own way of making music, their I don't know, voice. Style, I think is the right word. What would you suggest for someone who is up and coming that feels they're struggling they're becoming good at technically producing a track, but it doesn't sound like them. It sounds like many others. Is there anything that helped you developing your own way of making music?
I think the most important factor is time. You should take your time to develop your own sound. It's nothing that comes from one day to another. You really have to be consistent and consistently working on new tracks. I mean, if you have someone who really inspires you, then you can, in the beginning, you can definitely try to not recreate this kind of sound, but kind of go in that direction to also to give you like an anchor, kind of. Yeah, but I think the most important thing is time.
Yeah,
it really takes time to develop your own sound.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Like time, practice, experiments.
Yeah,
really help.
Yeah.
And in terms of, if you think about for yourself, like what does it mean to be an artist?
Actually, I don't know. I create music, but I feel more like a like a regular guy, like a regular person.
Yeah.
Not like I'm an artist. Because this always was like it belongs to my life story, kind of.
Yeah.
Since for many years, I'm just happy, especially right now, that I'm kind of able to make my living with music.
Yeah.
That I'm able to make music and to create something. That's what I really appreciate about being an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you something about your recent shift in career. Like, before you had another job and you were doing music as well. Now, recently you went, I only do music. Did something shift in your mind after you decided to go only music, in the way you see yourself?
Yeah, as I said, with the that before it was more like a hobby, and now it's my profession, let's say. And it's not just making music; it's also a lot about connecting to other people, for example, on social media, on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or it's it's also more important for me now than more than ever to like get personal connections to other producers,
Yeah.
to promoters, to clubs, because I'm kind of dependent on more dependent than before on like having also good relationships and yeah.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. It makes sense. I mean, it's a different way of of course, of pursuing a career. You need to adapt to that too. Was there in the tracks you released so far, was there any track of yours that you feel particularly connected with? And also another question that I had was there any track that you released thinking, oh, I don't really like it, but then it really had a lot of resonance?
I think as an artist, also for me, I'm also struggling to be 100% happy with one track. But yeah, there were definitely some tracks that I didn't expect to be. For example, if you talk about sales, to be sold so many times. For example, the collab track with Gabriele Avant. That we did, that was released in January this year. It's the most sold track on Beatport, and we both like, okay, wow, we didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Like from HoS, from the label. And a track that I have a special connection with, for example, there's this one track on my LP called Emerge, which I want to have it as as the opening track for my LP.
Yeah.
But actually, the label said, no, we want to have a banger as the first track on the LP. At the end, I think it was on D1. But this track, I have a special connection to this track because I produced it after a night that I spent in Berghain. I felt inspired to create like a opening track that I want to, if I get the chance someday to play at Berghain, that I want to play myself as my opening track for my first set at Berghain, which I actually did.
You
then.
did, yeah.
And that was a really special moment for me. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. How long time was between? So Berghain was this year in June, I think. And how many years before did you create the track? Thinking, okay, if I ever get to play in Berghain,
I think it was like a year ago.
Yeah. Okay, pretty recent.
Yeah, pretty recent. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and life, you know.
Yeah, you have to manifestate. How do you say?
Manifest. Yeah.
Manifest. Yeah.
Yeah. And now that you're talking a little bit about also playing gigs and in your artistic career, we spoke about it before the interview, but so there's different ways to actually get booked, and for you, I mean, it takes time for most people, right? It takes time, it takes effort. You don't really know what's working, what's not working. If you were to think about what happened to your life, the tracks you released, what you worked on, what are the things that helped you get on the world map and get a lot of bookings?
I think the biggest push that I got over the last, let's say, 3 years was the releases on Planet Rhythm. Because Planet Rhythm is, at least in the techno scene, a major label. And it really helped me to get more visibility, more people playing my tracks. And at the same time, also since I'm doing music 100 like full time, I was trying to push my social media a bit more as well. And I think a combination of those two things, like putting out high quality music and being more active on social media, those two factors definitely help to get more gigs, I think. And also the personal connection is still really important to the personal connection to promoters, to other DJs. It's really important to get more visibility, kind of.
Yeah, and as you were saying before, it's a combination of factors. It's very hard to say, oh, there's one thing that helped me. But you tried, okay, you release a lot of music, you got on Planet Rhythm, you keep releasing on them, you have like say a discography already with the label.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you started doing reels, if I remember well.
Yeah.
You told me a lot of the social media for you has been the reels, how
Yeah.
you produce music,
Yeah.
that it got resonance with people.
And
then
that's actually something that because I was working in a marketing agency before, so I got to know a lot of the like skills that I can apply now as well, of course.
Yeah.
But for me, social media marketing, at least how I experienced it in the agencies that I was working with, was always a bit of fake. So it was for me tough to find like a certain to find a format that I can identify with and that feels authentic to me.
Yes.
And with these reels recording me basically producing the tracks, it feels like I feel kind of real, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not doing I'm not talking to the camera, talking about something that, I don't know, gets a lot of clicks. I'm just doing my regular stuff.
That you would do anyways.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this, because, for example, what prompted you to start? Like, how did you come to the conclusion, okay, let's try a reel while I'm playing, while I'm jamming?
I think it was because I saw it on social media. And I saw that, and I also heard from friends that for them it was working really well. And I think I started to do these reels when like it was already a bit too much on social media and I was not sure if it's going to work or not, but it actually helped me a lot to gain visibility.
Yeah.
I think it's also about the algorithms that videos nowadays are more interesting than photo content. So I think like the feedback that I got from outside and that I saw on the stuff that I saw on Instagram gave me the inspiration to try it myself.
Yeah. And the way you do it is while you're jamming anyways, you're producing a track, you then record a part of that, like a section of that jam with video.
Yeah.
And do you do any type of optimization, post-production afterwards? For example, the audio is recorded into a laptop or a recorder, and then you mix it.
Yeah, I record the audio in Ableton directly, so I open a new audio channel and then route the master output on that channel. I record the audio. I record the video with my phone, and I have a self-built video phone holder for that from an old lamp.
It works.
It works. It works. And then I use InShot.
I use that too. Yeah, super useful tool.
Yeah,
amazing.
it's really useful, and then I merge them together, kind of.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and have you seen anything that, like, do you believe in, for example, posting at a certain time, posting with a certain frequency? Do you follow this type of guidelines, or for you it's literally like whenever you have it, you just post it and see?
I mean, I'm trying to like post this on certain times. For example, I did a video last Saturday, but I didn't want to post it on Saturday because on Saturday everyone is like, I don't know, partying or busy doing something else, being with friends, whatever. And I think during the week you get more visibility on social media. But when it comes to times, I think, that is just my feeling. I always tend to post stuff in the afternoon, early evening, because I think that people are like more on Instagram, checking for things. So yeah,
it's easier to get traffic to the video. Yeah, super interesting. And what really resonates with me, I think, is very important for many people, is what you said before, which is it's your authentic way. I mean, you're not doing something you would not do.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're just pressing record.
Yeah.
You're anyways jamming and producing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then you find a way to do that that is you still put effort, but in a way, it's like it's in line with.
It's
who you are.
natural.
It's
It
natural,
comes natural. Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned music, quality, production. You mentioned social media. You found your authentic way. The third thing was networking. We chatted a bit before. You said you were naturally introverted. So for you, doesn't come natural to go out to a party and then talk to everybody.
Yeah.
How did you navigate your career in music, but while being an introvert?
So I'm living in Berlin now for 10 years. Before that, I was living in Chemnitz. And in Chemnitz, it was actually quite easy to connect to the scene because the scene is very small there. And so in Chemnitz, I played quite regularly. And I moved to Berlin with this mindset, kind of, that it's going to be easy in Berlin as well to get gigs. But like the first 1 or 2 years, I quickly came to realize that it's way tougher in Berlin to get some exposure, let's say. I was trying to connect to some people back then on Facebook, I think. And I was also invited to some events where I wanted to talk to like the promoters and stuff. But as you mentioned, me being more introverted, it's not easy for me to have like small talks with random people. I think for me, I always kind of held on to the music. I kept working on what I can do best.
Yeah.
And there were so many times in the last 10 years that I've been living in Berlin now where I told myself, like, this is nonsense. This is going nowhere. Why am I even doing this anymore? And as I mentioned before, with the releases on Planet Rhythm, it really, really helped me, or it really, really helped me to get more visibility, and it got somehow, it made me happy to see that the music still is it's not always the most important thing, but in this particular situation, the music was the most important thing that led to a release on Planet Rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you think that also helped you? So it's kind of your calling card, your business card when you go and meet people, because people know you for your music, so it's easier to connect with them. Did it happen to you? Does that happen to you? That people now know your music because of the releases, and they're like, okay.
It definitely made the connection to certain people easier. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is encouraging for people who are not naturally extroverted.
Yeah,
struggle
exactly.
Or find challenging to go out and try to meet people all the time.
Yeah.
It's useful.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the only way. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
You don't need to shoot yourself if you are not talking to stones, all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's actually what I was thinking the whole time. That I'm trying to hold on to the music because this is the way to go for me. This is what feels natural to me.
Yeah. We told me before, what's one piece of advice that you're tired of hearing?
So I was actually thinking that it was a question that what is the most annoying thing you've been asked in the past? And for me, it's always like, how many social media followers do you have?
It's so interesting. Do you get that question from music fans, from other producers, from promoters, or I don't know?
From promoters mostly.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely is the necessary evil, I would say, nowadays. Yeah. If you want to have some exposure, some visibility as an artist, then social media is it's necessary to be active on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very helpful. For yourself, what's your definition of success?
If you're happy with what you're doing, I think that's my definition of success. Yeah.
Are you happy with what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, especially after being really being in a mental breakdown after my last job. Right now, being in this position where I can do the stuff that I love to do, makes me really, really happy, and I really appreciate that at the moment things are going so well for me.
Yeah.
And it's nothing that I was thinking that could ever happen like 1 or 2 years ago. And
that's amazing.
This year, I don't know, so many insane things happened. But not just by surprise or by chance. It's also because I put a lot of work and effort into it, and
time.
Time. Yeah.
Super happy for you. Super happy to see this.
Yeah, thank you.
It's inspiring it, and I'm really happy for you. Like it's a great thing, and you should enjoy this. You deserve it. It's great. You're doing the work, and eventually things work out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And when you think about your life in the next, let's say, 5 years, are you a person that plans a lot, or you go with the flow?
What I really want to also push next to my DJing is I also started to give one-on-one production classes this year. And last weekend I took part as a speaker in a music conference back in my hometown. And those two things, they really, I enjoyed being part of that panel discussion, also hosting a workshop about how I put together my live set. I don't know, people being there, being interested in my craft, let's say, people who want to learn something about how I create music and are open to be taught my techniques, for example. I really enjoy teaching other people how I create and how I build my tracks, and to educate kind of them.
Yeah, that's super cool. And
in the next 5 years, I really would like to, as I said, apart from DJing, really would like to push on that, to maybe take part in such music conference more often. Yeah. And
definitely also doing the one-to-ones, if it's something you enjoy, it's also like a great thing to do.
Yeah,
I'm doing the one-to-ones, so you also like super helpful. I find it super helpful, so thank you. I think it works really well.
Sure.
I guarantee. One question that I always ask now, you're playing more and more gigs at the weekend, how do you keep healthy relationships in your personal life? Like knowing that you spend a lot of time in the studio, you travel at the weekend, which is normally where most people have free time. How do you maintain friendships, romantic relationships, family in your life?
I mean, at the moment, for example, in December now, I don't have any gigs planned. So I'm not in that state where I travel to different cities every weekend. But for example, in January next year, I already have every weekend booked. So that's going to be definitely interesting. That's going to be quite new. But at the moment, I think there's still a good balance between weekends that I have off and weekends that I play gigs. So, for example, with my girlfriend, if the DJing gets more in the future, I think we need to really plan, for example, weekends that we gonna take off and take time for our relationship. Because during the week, my girlfriend is like working full time, and we only see each other in the morning and in the evening.
With probably your mostly tired in rush.
Yeah.
It's not really the best quality time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If things are going in the direction that it looks like right now, then I think we definitely need to really take care of our relationship. Yeah.
To the more and friendship again along
And
the same
friendship
line.
as well, of course. Yeah. Although at the moment that I'm not playing that many gigs, when I play abroad, for example, when I played in Amsterdam like a month ago at ADE, some friends of mine joined because right now it's just not that many gigs that friends are still hyped to be part of the
Let's go.
Yeah.
Amsterdam, let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go to Prague, let's go to Amsterdam, whatever.
That's probably one of the best things that as a touring artist one can offer.
Yeah.
You know, you travel with your friends. And just
Yeah.
it's like a
That's
treat,
the
you know?
best thing you can do. You can have. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's probably good for them too when it happens. Like, I mean, every weekend it would be hard for them to.
Mhm. Yeah. It's also like financially very
exactly.
difficult to manage. Especially when you go to Amsterdam, which is like a fucking expensive city.
Super expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty hard. Yeah.
Mm.
And going through the last set of questions, you can answer them very quickly, like without thinking so much. What is something that you would change your mind on recently?
That I changed my mind on. That's a tricky question. I really have to think about this one. Maybe the next one, next question.
Yeah. What drives you in life?
What drives me in life? My passion for music, my friends, my girlfriend, my family. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's something people assume about you that isn't true?
That I'm DJing, producing since 3 years.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Does that happen often? Like a lot of people tell you.
Yeah,
"Oh,
because I nobody knew me like before 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think commercially might be actually a good thing, you know, because then you're news, you know.
It's also funny because in March this year I played New Faces, and I know this format for so many years, actually since I moved to Berlin, and one of the things you have to fulfill as an artist, you should not be DJing longer than 5 years. And I'm like, okay, I've been doing this way longer, but
you need to write it.
No, but it's something that they told me, like, you shouldn't be DJing for more than 5 years. But actually, New Faces doesn't, for me at least, it doesn't mean that you
for sure.
just started with DJing. It means more like, or for me, New Faces relates more to people that are unknown.
Yeah, exactly.
But could still be doing music for 10, 15 years.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, I mean, people then, whatever, they find you when you're probably on your way up, which also means there is a years of ramping up to get to that point when you have releases on that label. Like, oh shit, I just found this person. I think I came across your music in February this year. You know? So in my mind, you could have been, oh, who is this new person?
Yeah.
But then, of course, then you have a history before
exactly,
that I never saw.
Yeah.
And
but how should people know? You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's impossible.
Yeah.
If you were to choose one closing track for one of your sets for the rest of your life, what would that be?
So there's a really, really special track from a producer called Vierek. He's also very unknown. And I bought a record from Delusion Records, I think, back in 2019. And it's a VA with several artists on it. And Vierek is one of the producers who released on that VA. And the track is called Ewig. I played it at my first Berghain as my closing track.
Oh, nice.
And that's one of the tracks that I rarely play, but it has such a special and unique character, and also because it has a really, really strong pad and some acid sounds in between. A really epic break.
Wow.
So it gave me really goosebumps playing it at Berghain, and also like the reaction of the crowd was intense. And
very nice.
it was really nice because a friend of him, he came to the first set at Berghain, and after I finished, he approached me and he was like, "Hey, man, are you insane? You played this track from a good friend of mine."
So cool. So cool.
And the second time I played at Berghain, he was actually there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And it was really,
Sick.
really nice. He was also super happy. He was super overwhelmed with.
Of course. Also like listening to that sound system, that club, like, you know,
Yeah.
as a producer of that track, you're like, wow.
It's like I mean, he produced it in 2017 or 18,
Yeah.
and for me, it's like a classic track that I
Yeah.
probably gonna play till the end of my days. Yeah.
Very cool. I need to check it out.
Yeah.
And one more question. Can you sing aloud one of your latest tracks?
Sing loud.
Yeah. Sing one of your latest tracks.
Nope, not really.
What is one guilty pleasure track for you?
Guilty
track
pleasure?
A track you would never play in a set.
I would say never. For example, there's this one track from Tok Tok versus Sophie O. I think it's called Missy Queen Pussycat. Okay. And it's like this electro pop disco.
Sounds like that.
Yeah. I never thought I'm gonna play this track, but back in 2017, I played at Art Lake Festival together with a friend, and we played this track as our closing track. And we were both, when we prepared the set, we were both like, "No, we cannot do this.
My fault, right?
That's too like cringe."
Yeah.
But then we were like, "Okay, let's fucking try it," and yeah, people went crazy.
Yeah.
So you never know.
No,
The-
exactly.
If you have the right timing and the crowd is in the right mood, then yeah,
Can play anything.
it could make a big difference if you play like a track that nobody would expect.
Yeah, I think so. And especially, I think there is some magic with opening tracks, but really with closing tracks. Especially for people who have been engaging with your set.
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah, yeah.
The closing track is the
Like-
moment to remember the most, right?
And also some years ago, there was this, I think it was 1 or 2 years when I heard Donna Summer, I
Yeah.
Feel Love, so many times in in different clubs, a track that I never would expect in a techno set.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, at some point it was too much, because then it's like everybody's picking up the trend and the
Yeah.
hype. But when I heard it the first 2 times or 3 times, it was really magical.
Yeah. Yeah, super nice. And a beautiful track as well.
Mhm.
Would you rather play in front of 10,000 strangers, massive stadium,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't get the chance to speak with any of them, but it's a like huge stadium,
Mhm.
or 20 close friends in a house party?
20 close friends in the
Yeah.
house party, I would say. Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. More fun, more...
Yeah, it's more intimate. And even with 20 people, you
Mhm.
can sometimes have way more fun than with
Yeah.
10,000 of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. Who is one artist? Can be producer, DJ, musician, or other kind of artist,
Mm-hmm.
dead or alive, that if you get stuck on an island, you need to spend 1 week with this person. Who would that be and why?
The first person that pops up is Rodhead. If he brings his studio equipment, I mean, then 1 week would be like,
Yeah. Yeah. The best
Yeah.
week of your life. Just
yeah,
producing.
probably.
Came out with like 3 albums.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. What's something that a project of yours, one thing, gig project that you're particularly excited for that is going to come in the next future?
So I have 2 releases beginning of next year. First release is end of January. It's gonna be on Soma Records,
Nice.
together with a friend of mine, a producer friend of mine from Berlin, Rocco Garoni. And yeah, we have a 5-track EP that's coming out there end of
Very
June,
cool.
end of January, and end of February or mid March. It's not sure yet. There's gonna be a collab EP with Against Me
Very cool. Nice.
on Tar Hello, the
Tano,
label
yeah.
from Thanos Hana.
Yeah.
Um, which is gonna be on vinyl as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, apart from the EPs, I was really lucky to be invited for two VAs that I never imagined to be part of.
Yeah.
So one VA is gonna be track of mine is gonna be released on KSR, label from Kaiser.
Nice. Super cool.
And the second one is gonna be for the 10 years anniversary of Clergy,
Yeah.
the label from Cleric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very good to know. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we have closing tradition at HoS Sound. What's one question you would like us to ask the next guest?
I was thinking about this one, and actually we didn't talk about it today, but actually I was thinking how this person thinks AI will influence making electronic music, making techno music in the future.
Very cool. And as you can imagine, there is a question for you,
Yeah.
which is, what do you think techno is going to be in 10 years from now?
It's really hard to say. As fast as like hypes come and go, I think let's call it OG techno will always be there, but I don't think it's gonna be super hyped in the next 10 years. It's always gonna be like for the let's say for the quality lovers.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I really don't hope that it's gonna get faster and harder in the future, because we are already on some point where I'm like, okay, that's too much for me. Yeah, it's really hard to say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I really hope techno is not gonna be too commercialized, which it is to some extent already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I hope that there will always be like this underground scene, underground movement, also in 10 years' time.
Yeah. Very cool. Dominic, this has been a great chat. Super inspiring.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Great to get to know you more. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation. Thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure.
Nice, man.
Nice.